last year, Teamfight Tactics was one of the top 20 most watched games on Twitch, so it must be good, right?
Yumi was A tier at best. Let's fucking send a drone to nuke her house and everyone she knew.
I mean, the entire set, I just lost interest.
So why do TFT players hate TFT so much? At its core, it's because TFT is a game where the best player doesn't always win. Does it not being a purely skill-based game stop it from being a good competitive game? Absolutely not. Pokemon's VGC scene has been breaking their largest tournament record every few months or so, and that game is littered with RNG-based elements. Hell, a 30% accurate one-hit KO move recently had a period of viability in competitive play. You could also insert any card game of your choosing here. Getting matched up against an opponent whose deck crushes your own, or starting with a handful of bricks, can end the match on turn 1 to no fault of your own. So why aren't there as many VGC crashouts on their subreddit that there is on the competitive TFT subreddit? Well, that's because a mainline Pokemon game that radically shifts the meta comes out every 3 years, whereas TFT effectively becomes a new game every 2 weeks with patches, and literally becomes a new game every 4 months or so with new sets. The changes come at such a breakneck pace that mastering the game in a way that allows you to mitigate those luck-based elements through your skill expression become much more difficult. That is, unless you sink a ridiculous amount of time into the game. Let's run through what a new patch might look like for a player. First required reading is the competitive TFT subreddit to learn about any bugged interactions that might have slipped through the cracks, or to learn Smoju Sam's secret 1000 LP Janna build from Singapore that 7 players will be forcing in the next lobby you queue up for. Then you're going to want to pop over to the TFT Academy to see if the comp you spent the last week mastering is still viable. If you're a diligent free thinker, you can even skim through the placement numbers yourself on Meta TFT to see if there's any unit being underutilized that you can get an edge with. So now we can actually queue up for games, right? Ooh, sorry, no. Instead, we get to go skim through an 8-hour dish soap VOD to learn what augments are unclickable after the changes. Now that augment stats can't be public knowledge because players having 7 tabs open instead of 6 while playing the game is a bad player experience. You can of course skip all of this and hop right into the queue without reading patch notes, but especially at higher elos, you will be at an insane disadvantage against someone who is doing their homework. But okay, you study your ass off outside of the game, review your VODs, eat your veggies by watching an appy stream to learn instead of the top of Soju's head, and climb 400 LP in a couple of days. Hard work is rewarded, life is good, and then the new patch comes out in 2 weeks and you have to relearn everything. A game asking you to take time to get better is not the problem. The problem is that working hard to get better at TFT at most lasts 4 months, and at minimum lasts only 2 weeks. So no wonder players crash out harder when they go 8th due to bad luck. It's because they know they're on a clock until the next patch, and going minus 40 LP has limited the number of chances they get to make something of all the time they've sunk into the game. But if this problem is inherently baked into TFT, why has there been so much more complaining this set? That would be because Set 15's issues heighten these flaws instead of mitigate them. And I'd say most of these issues with the current set stem from the power-up fruit. They have been a balancing nightmare because of all the variation they introduce. They don't have stats numbers for players to know which are clickable and which are not, and have been rife with bugs throughout the set's entire life cycle, which hits on every single problem we just discussed. So is TFT just an inherently flawed game with no chance of repair? First off, TFT is going to be fine if they change absolutely nothing. The core gameplay loop is incredibly addictive, and without a true competitor in the space, they're safe for now. But there are a few things that I think could head us in the right direction. The cheapest fix would be finding a way to shave time off the bloated 30-minute games. This could maybe be done by making stage 2 and 3 fights a little bit faster, or shaving time off of PvE rounds. This would give a sliver of the most valuable resource, time, back to players, but this would only be a band-aid on a knife wound. The real way this would get resolved would be hiring many more people to the TFT team to allow for more internal balance testing instead of outsourcing it to PvE players. This would ideally allow the bi-weekly patches to become tweaks instead of massive overhauls that would still keep the game fresh and readjust things that may have gotten out of hand. But I don't think that's going to happen because of the main Scooby-Doo villain behind all of this. You guessed it, it's capitalism. TFT makes money in its current state, so why would Riot ever do anything else? It's the same reason why Game Freak plops out unfinished garbage that barely runs instead of tapping into the creative minds behind the plethora of amazing ROM hacks that exist. People are gonna buy the game regardless of if it's good or not. Anyways, all this being said, is TFT a bad game? No. Is TFT dying? Absolutely not. Should you personally stop playing TFT? I don't care. Will I stop playing TFT? That depends if BoxBox invites me back to the bootcamp or not. But yeah, gamers, let me know what you think. This is a little off the beaten path of what we normally do here. I usually make videos covering Pokemon Challenge games, also stream that and maybe TFT if the boot camp happens over on Twitch. Links down in the description to follow. But I've been your good pal, Saves Untitled, and I'll see you next time. Peace.